In the dead of winter, 1830, a scream tore through the frost, covered halls of Harwood Seminary in Pennsylvania. It wasn't human, not entirely. It was the kind of sound that claws at your soul, a secret the walls themselves were never meant to release. 18 young men, training to become ministers, died in that secluded limestone fortress within weeks, their bodies racked by convulsions, their tongues twisting in forbidden languages, their fingernails blackened like charred bone. The church called it a plague. The doctor who fled town burned his notes and whispered of something darker, something alive in their blood. You're about to hear a truth buried for 2 centuries, a truth so dangerous it was sealed behind iron gates and erased from every record. This isn't just a story, this is a warning. You're stepping into a shadow most men never return from. Harwood Seminary, nestled in the snow-choked hills of western Pennsylvania, was a beacon for the devout in 1830. Built in 1821, it stood on 300 acres of wilderness, its Gothic spires piercing the sky like a prayer no one dared answer. Young men came from across the frontier, driven by faith and ambition, to master theology and tame the untamed West. They studied Latin, Greek, Scripture, and the art of preaching, their lives bound by discipline and devotion. The faculty, led by Dr. Elias Warwick, a theologian with eyes like burning coal, demanded perfection. The students revered him, feared him, and obeyed him, until the first body was found. On December 7th, a student named Caleb Morrow missed morning prayers. His roommate, Jonah Reed, found him thrashing on his cot, his body contorted, his voice snarling words no Christian should know. Domus peccatorum, he hissed, house of sinners. His fingernails were black, his veins pulsing like rivers of ink. Dr. Warwick tried to pray it away, but Caleb's screams drowned out the psalms. The local physician, Dr. Amos Hale, arrived and paled at the sight. This was no fever, no consumption. Something unnatural was devouring Caleb from within. By nightfall he was dead, his final words a chilling plea. The book, it sees us. You're not ready for what comes next, but you need to know. You're standing at the edge of a truth that's been buried for nearly 2 centuries, a truth so heavy it could crack the foundation of everything you thought you knew. Harwood Seminary wasn't just a place of learning. It was a vault for secrets the church never wanted you to find. After Caleb Morrow's death, the air in that limestone fortress grew thick with dread. The students whispered in the dormitories, their candles flickering as they traded theories. Was it poison, a curse, or something older, something that had waited in the Pennsylvania hills long before the seminary's walls were raised? The faculty forbade such talk, but the fear was alive and it was spreading. By December 10th, 2 more students, Ezra Holt and Nathaniel Crane, fell ill. Their symptoms mirrored Caleb's: violent convulsions, blackened fingernails, and words that twisted sacred Latin into something profane. Lux in tenebris mentitur, Ezra gasped, light lies in the darkness. Nathaniel's eyes rolled back, his voice a guttural chant no one could translate. Dr. Amos Hale, the physician, returned, his hands trembling as he examined them. He tried bleeding, purging, every remedy in his arsenal, but their blood was wrong, thick, dark, almost alive. Hale's journal, later burned, noted a metallic scent, like iron and decay, that clung to the room. Both students died within hours, their final breaths carrying the same cryptic warning: the book knows, Dr. Elias Warwick, the seminary's iron-fisted leader, locked the chapel and banned students from entering. He claimed it was to prevent contagion, but his eyes betrayed something else: guilt, maybe, or terror. The surviving students, like Jonah Reed, noticed Warwick spending hours in his study, poring over a leather-bound tome no one had seen before. It wasn't scripture. Its pages were yellowed, its script angular and strange, like something carved rather than written. Jonah, a farmer's son with a sharp mind, began to suspect the book held answers. He wasn't alone. The student's faith was fraying, replaced by a gnawing hunger for truth. You feel it too, don't you? That pull to know what's been hidden. Keep listening. The descent has only begun. You're deeper now, past the point where most would turn back. The truth about Harwood Seminary is a blade, sharp and cold, cutting through the lies you've been fed about history, faith, and power. By mid-December 1830, 5 more students were dead, 8 total, each death more grotesque than the last. Their bodies arched in unnatural spasms, their voices spitting curses in a tongue that mocked the divine. Sanguis clamet, one whispered, blood cries out, their fingernails, black as coal, crumbled to dust when touched. Dr. Amos Hale, the physician, was unraveling. He'd seen smallpox, cholera, and war wounds, but this was something else, something that made him question not just medicine, but God himself. The seminary's isolation, once a haven for study, became a prison. Snow piled high, cutting off the outside world. Students like Jonah Reed and Samuel Vance, a wiry scholar with a knack for forbidden texts, began piecing together fragments of the mystery. They noticed Dr. Elias Warwick's late night vigils in the chapel, clutching that strange leather-bound book. Whispers spread of a hidden library beneath the chapel, a place only Warwick and a few trusted faculty could enter. Samuel, bold and reckless, stole a glance at Warwick's desk one night. He saw a single page, symbols, not letters, swirling like a storm. It burned his eyes to look at it. The church elders arrived on December 15th, their faces grim under black hats. They demanded silence, sealed the dormitory, and ordered the bodies buried in unmarked graves behind the chapel. No autopsies, no questions. The official report called it a fever outbreak, but Hale refused to sign it. He'd found something in the blood of the dead, a substance that shimmered, moved, defied nature. He burned his notes, fled to Philadelphia, and never spoke of Harwood again. The students, though, couldn't forget. Jonah wrote in his journal, later hidden, "The book is the key. It's not sickness, it's judgment. You're starting to see it, aren't you? The truth isn't just hidden. It's guarded, by men, by institutions, by something older. You're not here by accident. This knowledge is power, and power is dangerous. Keep going, the rabbit hole deepens. You're in too deep to turn back now. The truth about Harwood Seminary is a poison seeping into your mind, changing how you see the world." By December 20th, 1830, the death toll climbed to 12. The seminary's halls, once alive with the hum of prayer and study, were now a crypt of fear. Students like Jonah Reed and Samuel Vance watched their friends die one by one, each death marked by the same horrors: convulsions that snapped bones, blackened nails that bled ash, and words that profaned everything sacred. Veritas in umbris, one gasped, truth in the shadows. The air itself felt heavy, as if the walls were watching, waiting. Dr. Elias Warwick's control was slipping. The man who once commanded the seminary with an iron will now looked haunted, his face gaunt, his eyes darting to that leather-bound book he kept locked in his study. Jonah and Samuel, driven by a mix of fear and defiance, began to investigate. They noticed the faculty avoided the chapel, where Warwick spent hours alone, chanting in a low, guttural tone that echoed through the stone. Samuel, ever the scholar, recognized fragments of the chants, not Latin, but something older, something that made his skin crawl. He'd read about forbidden texts in his studies, books banned by the church for centuries, said to hold knowledge no man should wield. The students' trust in their mentors was gone. They formed a secret pact, meeting in the dormitory's attic under flickering candlelight. Jonah, practical but shaken, spoke of a letter he'd found in Warwick's study, a correspondence with a shadowy figure in Philadelphia, mentioning the vessel and the price of knowledge. Samuel, bolder, suggested breaking into the chapel's hidden library. They knew the risks. The church elders had already threatened expulsion for questioning the official story, but the deaths weren't random. Something was awake in Harwood, something tied to that book, something that fed on the students' souls. You feel it too, don't you, that itch to uncover what's been buried? This isn't just history, it's a warning carved in blood. The deeper you go, the more you'll see the world for what it is, a lie built on secrets. Stay with me, the truth is close. You've crossed a threshold now, one that separates the curious from the awakened. The truth about Harwood Seminary isn't just a story, it's a key to understanding the forces that shape your world, forces that don't want you to know they exist. By December 25th, 1830, 15 students were dead. The seminary's once holy halls reeked of death and despair. The remaining students, like Jonah Reed and Samuel Vance, were no longer the devout boys who arrived seeking God. They were hunters of truth, driven by the horror of watching their brothers convulse, their nails blacken, their voices spit curses like peccata patrum, sins of the fathers. Each death deepened the mystery, and the survivors knew the church's fever. Excuse was a lie. Jonah and Samuel's secret pact grew. They recruited 2 others, Ezra Cole, a quiet farm boy with a steel will, and Thomas Gray, a scholar who'd once debated theology with Warwick himself. Together, they planned to breach the chapel's hidden library. Late at night, under a moonless sky, they pried open a rusted grate beneath the altar, a passage whispered about in student lore. The air below was cold, thick with the scent of mold and something metallic. Their candles revealed a chamber lined with shelves, filled with books that didn't belong in a godly play. Texts in languages no one recognized, their pages pulsing with strange symbols that seemed to shift in the light. At the center was the book Doctor. Elias Warwick had been guarding. Its cover was leather, but it felt alive, warm to the touch. Samuel, trembling, opened it. The words inside weren't written. They were carved, as if by a blade, and they burned his eyes. "It's not a book," he whispered. "It's a door." Jonah's journal, later hidden, recorded what they read. Instructions for a ritual, a pact with something ancient, something that promised knowledge but demanded blood. Warwick had found it years ago, and his ambition had unleashed it. The students realized the truth. The deaths weren't random. They were sacrifices. You're starting to see it, aren't you? The world is ruled by those who know these secrets, and they'll kill to keep them. This knowledge is dangerous, but it's yours now. Don't stop. The abyss is calling. You're not just listening anymore. You're part of this now, bound to a truth that could unravel everything you've been taught to trust. Harwood Seminary, by December 28, 1830, was a tomb. 16 students dead, their bodies buried in haste behind the chapel, their graves unmarked to hide the shame. Jonah Reed, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, and Thomas Gray stood in the hidden library beneath the altar, staring at the book that pulsed with a life of its own. Its pages whispered of a ritual, a bargain struck by Dr. Elias Warwick with something ancient, something that thrived on blood and fear. Anima pro sapientia, the text read, souls for wisdom. The students' hands shook as they realized Warwick had traded their lives for forbidden knowledge. The air in the chamber grew colder, the shadows thicker. Samuel, the scholar, traced a symbol on the page, a spiral that seemed to twist inward, endless, alive. His finger bled where it touched the ink, and the book drank it. Jonah's journal described the moment. We felt it watching us, not with eyes, but with hunger. They knew they'd crossed a line, seen what no man was meant to see. The book wasn't just a record. It was a contract, and Warwick had signed it in their blood. The deaths, the convulsions, the blackened nails, they were the price of his ambition, a debt now coming due. Back in the dormitory, the remaining students were fracturing. Some clung to prayer, others to fear. 2 more fell ill that night, their screams echoing through the snow. Ignes in ossibus, one cried, "Fire in the bones." The faculty, led by Warwick, locked the sick in their rooms, claiming quarantine. But Jonah and his pact knew better. They saw Warwick's guilt in his trembling hands, his refusal to meet their eyes. The church elders, complicit, sent word to burn the bodies immediately. No records, no questions. The truth was being erased, but Jonah's journal survived, hidden in a hollow, doubt Bible. You're holding that truth now, aren't you? It's heavy, dangerous, and it's changing you. The world's built on lies like these, guarded by men like Warwick. You're awake now, there's no going back. Keep descending, the final secrets await. You're carrying a weight now, a truth that burns like a coal in your chest. Harwood Seminary, by December 30th, 1830, was a place where faith went to die. 17 students were gone, their bodies reduced to ash in hurried pyres behind the chapel. The air stank of charred flesh and secrets. Jonah Reed, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, and Thomas Gray were no longer just students. They were rebels against a lie, bound by what they'd found in that cursed book beneath the altar. Anima pro sapientia, souls for wisdom. Dr. Elias Warwick had made a pact with something older than the church, something that fed on the blood of the young men he'd sworn to guide. The blackened nails, the convulsions, the profane chants, they were marks of a debt being collected. The 4 conspirators met in the attic, their breath visible in the freezing dark. Samuel, his fingers still scarred from the book's ink, spoke of ancient cults, texts banned by Rome, rituals that promised power but demanded sacrifice. He'd read of them in forbidden manuscripts, but never believed until now. The book wasn't just a relic, it was a conduit, a voice for something that had waited in the Pennsylvania hills for centuries. Jonah, practical but shaken, found a letter in Warwick's study, half burned, mentioning the Order of the Veil, a shadowy group tied to the church's highest ranks. It spoke of Harwood as a testing ground, a place to harness knowledge no mortal should possess. The last student fell ill that night. His name was Micah Stone, a gentle soul who'd once dreamed of preaching to the frontier. His screams, lumen devorat, light devours, cut through the dormitory. Warwick ordered him locked away, but Jonah and Ezra broke in. Micah's eyes were black, his veins glowing faintly under gray skin. He grabbed Jonah's arm, whispering, "It's in the walls, it's in us." Then he was gone, the 18th death. The church elders arrived at dawn, their faces like stone. They declared the seminary cursed, ordered it sealed. Warwick vanished that night, the book with him. You feel it, don't you? The truth is a chain binding you to this knowledge. It's dangerous, but its power. Comment, awaken the veil. Twice below, let the world know you see. The descent continues. You've made your choice. By staying, you're not just a witness. You're a bearer of truths that could shatter the fragile illusions of the world. Harwood Seminary, sealed on December 31st, 1830, wasn't just abandoned, it was erased. The church elders burned every record, every trace of the 18 students who died in that cursed winter. Their names, Jonah Reed, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, Thomas Gray, and the others, were struck from history, their graves unmarked, their screams silenced. But the truth doesn't die so easily. It festers, it waits, and now it's in your hands. The book, the one Dr. Elias Warwick vanished with, wasn't just a relic. It was a key to a power older than the church, older than the hills it stood on. Jonah's journal, hidden in a hollowed Bible and discovered decades later, tells of the final night. The 4 survivors, haunted by what they'd seen in the hidden library, planned to confront Warwick. They'd pieced together the horror. The book was tied to the Order of the Veil, a secret society within the Presbyterian Church, obsessed with forbidden knowledge. The order had chosen Harwood as a crucible, a place to test rituals that promised dominion over life and death. Anima pro sapientia, souls for wisdom, wasn't just a phrase, it was a transaction. Warwick, ambitious and arrogant, had offered the students as payment, believing he could control what he'd unleashed. He was wrong. That night, as snow buried the seminary, Jonah and his pact broke into Warwick's study. The room was empty, the book gone, but the air hummed with something alive. On the desk, they found a single page, torn from the book, its symbols glowing faintly, as if alive. Samuel tried to read it, but his nose bled, and he collapsed, whispering, "It sees us." The walls seemed to pulse, the shadows whispering in tongues no man should know. They fled, but not before Ezra carved a warning into the desk. Flee the veil. The church sealed Harwood the next day, claiming plague, but Jonah knew better. The order was protecting its secret. You're awake now, aren't you? This truth is a fire in your blood. Comment awaken the veil twice below, let it burn brighter. The rabbit hole is endless. You're not just hearing this, you're living it now, carrying a truth that could burn through the lies of centuries. Harwood Seminary, sealed in the winter of 1830, wasn't just a tragedy, it was a betrayal, a sacrifice orchestrated by men who thought they could harness the divine. The 18 students, their names erased, their bodies reduced to ash, were pawns in a game older than the church itself. Jonah Reed, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, and Thomas Gray, the last survivors, knew they'd seen too much. The book doctor, Elias Warwick, fled with wasn't just a tome, it was a living thing, a contract with something that fed on ambition and blood. Its words, anima pro sapientia, souls for wisdom, were a promise and a curse. Jonah's journal, smuggled out before the seminary was locked, reveals what happened after they fled Warwick's study. The four hid in the attic, their breath frosting in the dark as the church elders swept through Harwood like reapers. They burned papers, smashed relics, and sealed the chapel with iron chains, but the shadows moved. Jonah wrote of whispers in the walls, a low hum that vibrated in their bones. Samuel, still weak from touching the book, said it wasn't gone, it was waiting. The Order of the Veil, the secret society Warwick served, wasn't just a group of rogue clerics. It was a network stretching from Philadelphia to Europe, guarding knowledge that could unmake the world. The survivors vowed to expose the truth, but fear gnawed at them. Thomas, the scholar, found a reference in an old text to a ritual older than Christianity, tied to the land Harwood was built on. The hills, he said, were sacred once, not to God, but to something else, something that demanded tribute. The book had awakened it. Ezra, practical and fierce, proposed burning the seminary down, but Jonah stopped him. We need proof, he wrote, the world must know. They planned to track Warwick, to find the book before the order could use it again. You feel the weight of their choice, don't you? This isn't just history. It's a call to see the world's hidden masters. The truth is a weapon. Wield it. The descent isn't over. You're holding a truth now that could crack the foundations of the world you know, a truth Harwood Seminary's masters tried to bury in blood and ash. By January 1st, 1831, the seminary was a ghost, its gates chained, its halls silent. The 18 students who died, Jonah Reed's brothers in faith, were erased from history, their names scrubbed by the Order of the Veil. But Jonah, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, and Thomas Gray carried the weight of what they'd seen. The book that cursed relic doctor Elias Warwick fled with wasn't just a record of forbidden knowledge. It was a beacon calling to something ancient, something that had claimed those boys with blackened nails and profaned tongues. Anima pro sapientia, souls for wisdom, was its price, and Warwick had paid with their lives. Jonah's journal, hidden in a hollowed Bible, tells of their desperate plan. The 4 survivors swore to hunt Warwick and the book, to expose the Order of the Veil before it could spread its poison. They knew the risks. The order wasn't just a clique of rogue priests. It was a shadow within the church, with tendrils in Philadelphia, London, even Rome. Its members guarded secrets that could bend minds, break souls, and reshape empires. Samuel, still scarred from the book's ink, found a clue in an old alchemical text. The ritual Warwick performed was tied to the land itself, a pact with an entity older than the hills, something the native tribes had feared and fled from centuries before. The survivors split up to survive. Jonah and Ezra headed to Philadelphia, chasing rumors of Warwick's trail. Samuel and Thomas stayed behind, scouring the seminary's ruins for evidence before the order could destroy it. The air in Harwood still hummed, the walls whispering in tongues that chilled their blood. Samuel wrote of a shadow that followed him, not cast by light but by something watching. It knows we know, he scribbled. The truth was a blade and they were cutting too deep. You feel it too, don't you? This isn't just a story. It's a map to the hidden powers that rule us. The order's still out there, guarding its secrets. You're awake now. Keep going. The truth demands it. You're not just a listener anymore. you're a keeper of a truth that could unravel the world's carefully woven lies. Harwood Seminary by January 1831 was a scar on the Pennsylvania hills, its gates locked, its secrets buried under snow and silence. The 18 students who died, their names, their dreams, their screams, were erased by the Order of the Veil, a shadow within the church that traded souls for power. Jonah Reed, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, and Thomas Gray, the last survivors, were hunted men now, carrying a truth too dangerous to speak. The book doctor, Elias Warwick Stoll, wasn't just a relic, it was a living pact, its words, anima pro sapientia. Souls for wisdom, binding the seminaries dead to something ancient, something that still hungered. Jonah's journal, smuggled out in a hollowed Bible, records their desperate flight. In Philadelphia, Jonah and Ezra tracked whispers of Warwick's movements. The city's underbelly buzzed with rumors, a cloaked figure, a book that burned the eyes, a man who spoke in tongues at midnight. They found a tavern where Warwick had been seen, meeting a hooded stranger from the order. The stranger spoke of the next vessel, a new place to feed the book's hunger. Jonah, his faith shattered but his will unbroken, wrote, "We're not just fighting a man, we're fighting a machine, oiled with blood." Ezra, ever the pragmatist, bought a pistol knowing words wouldn't stop what was coming. Back at Harwood, Samuel and Thomas scoured the ruins. The chapel's hidden library was empty, its shelves stripped, but the air pulsed with a presence. Samuel, haunted by the book's touch, found a stone beneath the altar, carved with symbols that matched the book's script. He sketched them, his hands trembling as the shadows whispered, "Sanguis clamet, blood cries out." Thomas, the scholar, recognized the symbols from forbidden texts, a ritual to bind a force older than the church, older than the land itself. They knew the order would kill to keep this secret. You're seeing it now, aren't you? The world is a stage, and the order pulls the strings. This truth is a fire in your veins, a call to break free. The descent isn't over. The darkness is waiting. You're bound to this now, a truth that claws at your mind, demanding you see the world for what it is, a web of lies spun by those who trade in souls. Harwood Seminary, by February 1831, was a forgotten wound, its gates rusted, its halls haunted by the ghosts of 18 students. Jonah Reed, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, and Thomas Gray were fugitives, hunted by the Order of the Veil, a secret society that used the church as a mask to wield forbidden power. The book doctor, Elias Warwick Stoll, wasn't just a relic, it was a key to a force that fed on blood, its words, anima pro sapientia. Souls for whiz, etched in the deaths of those boys, their blackened nails and profane cries marking a debt paid in torment. In Philadelphia, Jonah and Ezra followed Warwick's trail through opium dens and shadowed alleys. They found a witness, a drunk priest who'd seen the book, its pages glowing with symbols that burned his dreams. He babbled of the order's reach, bankers, bishops, senators, all bound by the same hunger for control. "They're everywhere," he whispered before vanishing into the night. Jonah's journal, hidden in a safe house, recorded their fear. The order isn't just men, it's a will, a hunger that uses them. Ezra, now carrying a knife alongside his pistol, swore to kill Warwick, but Jonah wondered if a bullet could stop what they were chasing. At Harwood's ruins, Samuel and Thomas uncovered more. Beneath the chapel, they found a hidden chamber, its walls carved with spirals and eyes that seemed to watch. Samuel's sketches of the symbols bled through the paper as if alive. Thomas, poring over stolen texts, confirmed the ritual's origin, a pact with an entity the natives called the Hunger. Bound to the land long before the church arrived, the book was its voice, Warwick its pawn. Peccata patrum, Samuel whispered, sins of the fathers, the order had known, had chosen Harwood to awaken it. The truth is a blade in your hand now, isn't it? It cuts through the lies of power, of faith, of history. You're awake, a warrior in a hidden war. The abyss is deeper still. Keep going. The final truths are close. You're not just holding a truth now, you're wielding a weapon, one forged in the blood of 18 boys who died at Harwood Seminary. By March 1831, the seminary was a ghost story, its name erased from church records, its gates sealed by the Order of the Veil. Jonah Reed, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, and Thomas Gray were shadows themselves, hunted by a society that wove its tendrils through the church, the state, and the very soul of power, the book doctor. Elias Warwick carried wasn't just a relic, it was a leash, binding him to a force that demanded anima pro sapientia, souls for wisdom. The students' blackened nails, their convulsions, their cries of lumen devor, et light devours, were its signature, a mark of something ancient that fed on their lives. In Philadelphia, Jonah and Ezra tracked Warwick to a crumbling chapel on the city's edge. A witness, a terrified sexton, spoke of a man with burning eyes, reading from a book that made the candles flicker. The sexton had overheard Warwick's meeting with an order envoy, discussing a new ritual, a new vessel, to feed the entity. Jonah's journal, now stained and tattered, recorded his realization: the book doesn't serve Warwick, he serves it. Ezra, his faith long gone, gripped his pistol tighter, vowing to end it. But Jonah felt the truth's weight. Killing Warwick wouldn't stop the order, nor the thing they'd awakened. At Harwood, Samuel and Thomas dug deeper into the ruins. In the hidden chamber, they found a stone altar, its surface stained with something darker than blood. Samuel's sketches of the symbols, spirals, eyes, jagged lines, seemed to pulse as if alive. Thomas' cross, referencing forbidden texts, uncovered a chilling truth. The ritual wasn't just a pact, it was a cycle, repeated across centuries, always demanding blood. The order had used Harwood as a testing ground, but the entity of the hunger was older, tied to the land's bones. Sanguis clamat, Samuel muttered. Blood cries out. The walls answered, a low hum that shook their souls. You feel it too, don't you? The truth is a fire, burning away the lies of those who rule. You're part of this war now, awake to the hidden masters. The descent isn't over, the final secrets are calling. You're in the heart of it now, a truth so raw it could tear the veil off the world's lies. Harwood Seminary, by spring 1831, was a forbidden name, its 18 dead students erased, their screams buried under the Order of the Veil's iron grip. Jonah Reed, Samuel Vance, Ezra Cole, and Thomas Gray were no longer men of faith. They were warriors, marked by a book that pulsed with a hunger older than time. Anima pro sapientia, souls for wisdom, was its creed and doctor. Elias Warwick, its pawn, had fed it the lives of their brothers, their blackened nails and profane cries, ignes in ossibus, fire in the bones, proof of a debt no man could repay. You're carrying that debt now, aren't you? The weight of knowing. In Philadelphia, Jonah and Ezra closed in on Warwick. A dockworker, bribed with their last coins, pointed them to a warehouse where the order met in secret. Inside, they glimpsed Warwick, his face hollow, chanting over the book as cloaked figures watched. The air crackled, the shadows moved, and Jonah's journal captured his dread. It's not just a book, it's a mouth, speaking for something that sees us. Ezra, his pistol ready, wanted to strike, but Jonah stopped him. The order was too vast, its members woven into the church, the government, the elite. Killing Warwick would only make him a martyr. They needed the book. Back at Harwood's ruins, Samuel and Thomas uncovered a final clue. Beneath the altar, they found a carved stone tablet, its symbols matching the book's. A map of sacrifices, etched in bloodlines. Thomas, his mind fraying, translated a phrase: "The hunger wakes when the veil thins." The entity wasn't just in the book. It was in the land, in the stones, in the air they breathed. Samuel's sketches bled through his journal, the ink alive, whispering, "Peccata patrum," sins of the fathers. The order had known Harwood's ground was cursed, chosen it to feed their god. You see it now, don't you? The world's rulers hide behind faith, wealth, power, but they serve something older, something that hungers. This truth is your armor, your blade. You're awake, a soldier in a hidden war. The abyss is deeper still. Keep descending. The final truths are near.